Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hey there. Today's episode is called Future Proofing HR Consulting in the Age of AI, exploring how forward-thinking consultancies thrive and stay humid in a rapidly evolving tech landscape. Let's jump in. Today's guest is Wendy Giuffre, President and Principal Consultant for Wendy Ellen Inc. She is also co-author of the only HR best practice you'll ever need, a sought-after HR expert for the media, keynote speaker, and contributor to various HR specialty print media. Based in Calgary, Wendy and her team consult with small to medium-sized organizations in all industries based in and around Western Canada and U.S. affiliates. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning. Yes.
Good morning.
Thank you.
So, Wendy, tell us about Wendy Ellen Inc. How did you get started and how has it grown?
Well, we just had our 20th anniversary, so it was 20 years ago. And long story how I got started, but I basically took my first contract. I came from a major oil and gas company. Took my first contract and took another contract, took another one, and realized I can't keep taking contracts without help. So added my business partner, who was actually my kid's nanny at one point. So she's, I feel like if I can trust her with my kids, I can definitely trust her with my business. So we've
Absolutely.
had a relationship for years and years, and just grew clients consultants. So we're at about 12 now.
Terrific.
Yeah, that's consultants, not clients.
Got it. Of course. And many happy clients later. Tell us, what services do you offer?
We offer pretty much everything that you would think an HR department in a major company would offer. So really anything from bringing people into an organization. We have a couple different types of recruiting models where it's just hourly or it's your typical search consulting. And then really everything that happens when someone is employed through policies, bread and butter, has been for years for us. Any performance kinds of things, any leadership coaching or mentoring we need to do, disability case management, all that stuff that happens when you employ people. And then obviously to the eventual exit, where we also do career counseling programs as well.
Terrific. That does sound like a broad spectrum of services that you offer. And who are your target clients?
Our target clients, we don't have we're not industry specific, which it's worked really well for us through the, ups and downs of the economy, through COVID, for everything. So we're not industry specific, but it's typically size of business, and it's not revenue, it's people. Companies, we've worked with companies of 5 or 6 all the way up to about 25 or so. And, at that time, you definitely need someone on the ground doing at least the sort of administrative side of HR.
Sure. So it sounds like in between there, in some cases, you're providing fractional HR services where maybe they're not big enough to have an HR director, but you're providing all the services that one would.
Yeah, that's about 90% of our business is fractional work. So, we have some consultants that sit on site for a set amount of time per month. We have some total virtual consultants. And the benefit of that, of course, is that you can work away at projects, but still be available for any day-to-day issues that may arise. So we do. Sure. That's a major part of our work.
Okay. And what's the average tenure of the consultants that you employ?
That's a great question. And I'm very proud to say that I think I've asked 1 or 2 to leave, and I've only had 1 leave, and she's a lawyer now. So my consultants stay. I've had consultants that have been with me 15, 16 years. And my newest one just had a baby. She's enjoying her time right now. But probably since then, my most junior one is 7 years in.
Wow.
So they stay. So I love it. It's nice. My clients enjoy that sort of consistency with their consultant.
Amazingly important. And it's fun when people have babies and take some time off too. Okay. So average tenure, 7+ years with your consultants. How about your clients? Do your clients tend to to keep you around for a while? Or, how often are you picking up new clients versus doing some more work for previous clients?
We basically are almost always picking up new work. And then our biggest success is when we work with a client and we work ourselves out of a job where they get big enough and we help them bring in an HR person full time. That's a lot of how we end a client relationship. Sometimes, we get in there and do the work that needed doing. And then we're very, very part-time just from an HR advisory process. So that's kind of a tough question to answer. I mean, we've had some clients for 10 plus years on a fractional basis. And then we have clients that come back when they, have grown. Maybe we've gone in and helped them set up their HR infrastructure pieces and got them on a good path. And they'll come back when they've grown and need some more like basically active HR support.
Got it. And you said you're picking up new clients all the time. How do they typically come to you? Is that, I imagine, heavy referrals?
And also our website. Our website draws
Okay.
great results. There's not a lot of people that do what we do sort of with the same model. There's a lot of HR consultants, a lot of, one-person HR consultants, or a lot of bigger shops, but ones like ours that are more of a personal service where the client gets one consultant. They don't just pick up the phone and get whoever's available. That consultant gets to know their team, know their leaders, and there's a trust factor that's built. So that's really, I think, why our web brings a lot of traffic. But yeah, referrals, that's the best. I mean, I love hearing so-and-so referred you, or when a client comes back 2 years later, or somebody that we worked with before has moved to a new company. And to me, that's just validation that we do good work.
It is. It absolutely is. And that's kudos to you for that. Tell me about the typical background of the consultants that you employ that end up doing this fractional work for these companies.
I mean, they are hard to find. That's I have a hard time finding consultants because I need somebody that is very versatile, that can fill out a benefits form with an employee or sit at the leadership C-suite table. They do it all. It's a bit of a difficult person to find. I also don't promise any amount of work. So I also need somebody that can ebb and flow with business. Mostly my consultants are as busy as they want to be.
Okay.
Which is exactly what I want. So it's a special person that I look for, and they've just got to be chameleon-like because we work with so many different clients, and you really have to understand that small to mid-sized business market. They don't have the super big budgets. They don't have 8 months to get something implemented. So I look for somebody that has had that small to mid-sized business experience. So it's not an easy find, to be honest.
It's a good thing that you keep them around and you have strong tenure.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
Yeah. And if you were to hire somebody new tomorrow, how do you train them up? Do you have a supportive back office? Do you have collateral that you refer to? Or is it a lot of it is situational, of course?
Mm-hmm. We have a massive database of templates and processes we've used. So that's key. So the introduction to that, I wouldn't hire anybody that doesn't have the base knowledge of various HR pieces. I mean, I actually have one employee. Everybody else is consultants. I have one employee, brilliant guy that does a lot of our back office stuff, but does do some client facing work. I mean, a lot of this is learning through being part of that experience, because you can get 100% in any HR course, test, program, but until you've got that person sitting in front of you, totally different story. A lot of it then, if we do have somebody that's maybe a little bit greener, but we can tag team. We tag team some clients where we'll have one of the more senior people, and then we do a blended rate for them as well, right? That paired with someone that's not as experienced, and kind of share the workload.
That all makes sense. So let's pivot a little bit. The topic today is future-proofing HR consultancies in the age of AI, exploring how forward-thinking consultancies can adapt, thrive, and stay human in a rapidly evolving technology landscape. Have you noticed a shift in your business in the last year or two?
Yeah, not in volume of business. So it's not that people are replacing HR advice that way. I mean, you could, for years and years and years, you can always get almost any form, letter, template you want just through Google or whatever search engine you use. You can always, but that's been that way forever. I think we use AI. If we have to create a letter that we're not really sure, we'll run it, we'll get 3 or 4 examples and pull, what works best. So, I think being smart, and I think clients being smart about how they use AR from an HR perspective. Sure, if you want to put a letter together, put a form together, those kinds of things, like, spreadsheets for tracking things for employees, all those kinds of things. I think it's a brilliant tool. I think we're fortunate in one way that I think it'll be a very long time, and I'm really not looking forward to the day that you will have AI sitting in front of an employee and having a performance discussion, or unfortunately letting them go. So I think anything where you're people to people, I think right now, the paperwork surrounding that sure can be, very creatively and effectively developed through AI tools, but that emotion to emotion is, I don't see that for a while, and I actually hope I never see that. Or
I hope not too. I think AI is best. I like, instead of artificial intelligence, augmented intelligence, right? It augments what we do. I specifically named my company Amplify Impact because I want to use AI to simplify the work that we do so we can amplify the impact that we have. You said it well. The human-to-human touch, I hope, will never be replaced. But there's some things that, gosh, if you can make my life easier with this over here, then I can do more of that human-to-human interaction. Okay, so not major changes to your business, but it's certainly assisting you with content creation. Do you perceive any threats? Do you perceive any threats to your business with AI becoming more prominent, more accessible? If every client out there started using AI to get more done, how do we anticipate that? How do we stay ahead of that?
Yeah, I think we'd be pretty naive to think that it's not going to replace some of our business. Like I said, policy's been bread and butter for us since day one. Well, you can generate an entire employee handbook in minutes. So I think from the paperwork side of HR, the employee tracking, all that stuff, I mean, there's software for all that anyways, but I think that's where we're really going to see the biggest impact and probably the biggest loss in our business. However, like I said, you've been able to do a lot of that for years anyways. The real trick is, how does that apply to your company? How does that apply to your culture? How does that apply in specific situations? So that's, I think, where we add value to the augmentation that AI will provide.
Got it. I like how you said that, how we add value. My theory, and by the way, I've been working directly for a client for the last 2.25 years, but I was doing an HR consulting just prior to that, and ChatGPT had just come out. I would take questions that clients would ask, and I put them into ChatGPT, and I'd be shocked at how good the answers would come back. And that was, I don't know, 2 years ago. And it occurred to me that if, to your point, if we could generate an employee handbook in minutes, what value do we add over and on top of what AI can increasingly do? So as you think about adding value, as you think about future-proofing your business in the age of AI, what comes to mind? Or do you think about that? Are these discussions you're having with your team? And
yeah,
sure,
they're definitely discussions we're having with our team, because our team's embedded in a number of clients that are using those tools quite heavily. So I think to future-proof our business from that aspect, it's to maybe emphasize in a lot of the initial conversations with clients about how we can almost, I don't want to call it fact check, because that's not really what I mean, but I can't think of a better way to put it, but just checking, let's just make sure that this works with your business, and and does it sound like your business? And I mean, even that's getting, you can make it sound very much like your culture. And so, future proofing that kind of work, I think it's just kind of, we can't fight it. We're not going to fight it. So it's just, how can we work alongside? And maybe it's maybe if we're consulting with the company, they don't want to spend the time for us to create it. So maybe we AI it. So our time to do a handbook from whatever 20 hours is cut down to 20 minutes. So no matter what, it's cost effective.
This was a question I pondered myself over the last couple of years. If traditionally we charge for our services provided on an hourly basis, and we can take 20 hours of work and reduce it down to an hour, has your approach to billing switched at all, if it ever was based on an hourly approach, to an outcomes focus? I know there's some shift in the broader consulting industry to thinking more of an outcomes basis. Has that impacted you yet?
Well, not in those words, but I mean, our fractional services are kind of based on that, right? It's here you have us for, let's say 10 hours a month. We can do a handbook in 20 minutes, and then we can be there to support your leaders in how do they best deal with this one individual. We can be there to support employees on helping them walk through a conversation they may need to have. So that really, we don't, I mean, sure, sometimes we do ad hoc hourly billing for, if we're asked to do a certain piece of work. Typically that work is very high level employee issue work, whether it's harassment issue or conflict issue. So that would be a bit different. So in essence, we do outcome-based work anyways.
I like how you said, well, in a fractional setting where you can speed up the production of say, a handbook, but then dedicate more time to those conversations that matter, or handling those more complicated cases, because they're hiring you to help them achieve the best human outcome. And so I like how you emphasize that nice result, that we can have more time in those conversations. If somebody's buying 10 hours of our time each month, how they can get more value as an organization from those 10 hours, if that makes sense. Okay. So you wrote a book, The Only HR Practice You'll Ever Need. I'd love to hear more about not only the premise of that book, but if you were to rewrite that book today, or add a chapter, what's the chapter or two you might add? What have you learned since you co-wrote that book?
Well, that book was kind of a concept that Ashley, my partner, and I had talked about for years, because we have so many stories, things that happened through, this was back to 2009. We had maybe 15 years of business then. And so we wanted to frame a book. It's very tongue-in-cheek, the title, because everybody always asks us, what's the HR best practice in this? And our response is there isn't any, because your small to mid-sized business is very much your specific situation. Big oil companies, they have best practice. So, but in the clients that we deal with, very often we would always say there is no best practice. It's taking everything that works and is legislatively compliant, of course, but how is it going to work for your business? So that's kind of where the title, we just kind of tongue in cheek that one. But so it's really our stories on working with people and looking at kind of from the leadership perspective. So if I was to add a chapter, that's a good one. And it might be around the changing technology, and not just AI, but everything. So, where you used to only be able to get big, expensive HRIS platforms, now they're inexpensive, very easy, user-friendly. So I think maybe it would be that from that perspective, but that book is it's meant to be an easy read. There's some funny stuff in there. So we'd have to be able to put a twist to that too. But that's probably one of the biggest changes. And maybe the other piece that we would add to that is, the generation that is really becoming, working through the workforce. They're now becoming the leaders that we're working with. And it's very different to the generations of leadership 10, 15, 20 years ago. So
How so?
It's just how do you work, right? How do you work with these people?
Sure, sure. How so?
Yeah.
Very different, and you're working differently. How's it changed? What are you adapting? What do you see?
You asked us about outcome based billing or costing. It's kind of how they see it.
Okay.
It's what I can see. You got a job to do. For the most part, people don't go into a job not to do it well. So everybody does their job well. So I think more to that generation, it's not the hours I spent, it's did I get the job done? It's integrating I even hate to talk about the COVID time, but it fundamentally changed how people work. They learn to integrate their personal life and their work life. And I think it's brilliant from that perspective. And I don't think that's going away. So it's how do you make some sort of um, what we would consider kind of archaic policies and the way we worked. How do you now adapt? How do you get everybody to adapt? So I think that's what I mean by that. It's more outcome based. It's more integrated with. It's not just I go to work and I come home. They were meshed.
So the integration you're referring to is more of the, I'll call it, whole life, whole person
Mm-hmm.
approach.
Exactly.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Okay.
I can take my dog for a walk during the workday as opposed to walking two doors down and sitting in front of my coworker and having a coffee. Now, some will argue one is better than the other, but is it? I think it depends on the person. And I think it'll affect productivity probably in very similar ways.
And I think lucky are those companies that have found the right balance between in person and hybrid, if you will, or home based, where you can get the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
What else is on your mind? What else would you like to share with your peers? Perhaps some that don't have your years of experience. Any other wisdom to share?
I think the only wisdom I have to share, especially to other HR consultants, is there's lots of great work out there, and there's lots of great meaningful work out there. And I think yes, technology is going to be it's happening. I mean, you look at for everything's changed for years and years and years, and it will continue to change. Where it ends, who knows? But I don't know that there's not an ending. So it's just you have to adapt as best possible. I still believe in the value of person to person conversation, face to face conversation, honest conversations, which I don't think technology can do. So I'm going to firmly believe in that. And, I want to embrace, I'm really trying to see how it would best integrate some of these AI platforms and learnings in my own business. But when it comes to tech, it's not my strength. So I'm very cautious with it and step by step and listen to my advisors in that space. But I just think there's lots of good work out there. There's lots of good people to work with out there. And I also, one thing we always try and do in our little firm is keep the sense of humor. And maybe that's why I haven't lost people, because we can have a good laugh over a few things and enjoy getting together as well. So just keeping that, with so many people doing this kind of thing online, I think sometimes people just don't even want to go out because it's almost, it's something you have to actually think about doing. So let's not lose that.
Right. Very, very critical. I love that you and I, who are based many thousands of miles apart, can get to know each other in this way. But at the same token, there's just no I always call it interacting in three dimensions. Two dimensions is nice, but there's nothing like the face to face, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Is there anything in particular, as you think about the next year or two, that you'd like to change, that you'd like to fix in your business or improve, that will help you future proof for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think it's training up my consultants on all this stuff, like just making sure that one, we're speaking the same language when we're talking to our clients. And I think too, I want to advocate for sort of proper use of AI tools. So I think that's really it. That's the key thing, is to really start with my own team, and let's just make sure that we're not afraid of the technology and that we support it with our clients, but with caution whenever it's dealing with people's emotions and lives, really.
Yep. Okay. Terrific. Wendy, if peers in the business like something they heard today and would like to get in contact with you, how do you recommend they reach out? What's the best way to do that?
Probably just my email.
Okay, terrific. Wendy Giuffre, thank you, Wendy, so much for your contribution, for sharing your insights, your wisdom from over 20 years, and keeping our business people focused in this new era of technology. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for
Okay.
having me.